Welcome to The Homeless Conservative, hosted by yours truly, Don Poe. And this is my co-host, Stoner Dog. So today we're going to watch a clip from Tucker, and we're going to watch some other things that I find quite interesting on this topic. So let's get right into this, shall we?
Can stick together unless there is a shared identity, a supra-identity that looms over all other identities that holds it together. It's not the force of law that holds countries together. It's the force of custom, the force of language, and the force of shared belief. What is it?
So our language is English, obviously. I feel you should have to know English to be a naturalized citizen or, be able to speak it somewhat.
To be an American. It's not just a dopey academic question. It really is the question that without an answer will lead to the breakup of the United States, and possibly sooner than any of us expected. And there's no answer for that question right now. And so the meta question is why? Why can't we decide on something as basic as what it is to be American? How did we get here? How did we get to a place where people are starting to see themselves in terms that have no reference point at all in a national identity? And over time where that's going. How did we get here? That's what's worth assessing. Now, one way into that conversation is...
Now, how did we get here? Seriously? We got here by mass immigration. Remember a time when you could go somewhere and people were really proud of their culture or whatever, and I have nothing against that. Think about America and all the festivals and fairs we have. We have a Spanish-American festival somewhere in some cities. You know what I mean? I love them. You go there, the food's great, the culture's great. Everybody is coheving, right? Wow. How has it gotten to this point where people are trying to pledge allegiance to a country that they've never even stepped foot in, let alone, not realizing where they're at, America. All right, let's get back into this. Think about that one, though.
Is the current debate over the Somali community, people from Somalia living in the United States. And the reason it's interesting to start there is because there aren't that many of them. They tell us there are about 260,000 in the country. Of course, it could be 10 times that because we don't really know who lives here. And millions upon millions of immigrants have fake identity documents. Flash one of those at the airport, Mr. American citizen, and you'll go right to jail as a terrorist. But illegal aliens, of course, get to fake all the birth certificates and social security cards and other IDs they want, and they've been somehow indemnified, which, again, is part of the problem. But anyway.
I myself have done a lot of traveling, and I've noticed over the years the change, especially in security since 9/11. But let alone that, just the way they treat certain people differently. When instead of just having one base direction, one base style, like, look, we deal with this situation like this regardless of what's going on. Now, if somebody is mentally challenged, literally, you can notice in different ways. Now, some people in society, it's a education thing, literally. Did you know that handicapped people, that's 75 is your IQ, 75. So anything lower than that, you can be considered disabled, mentally disabled.
There are about, we think, 260,000 Somalis in the United States, and famously, they are two things. Not very successful. The overwhelming majority, in fact, almost all of them are on assistance of some kind, welfare of some kind, and poor. Over 50% of all Somali kids are in poverty. That compares to about 8% of native-born Americans. So this is one of the poorest groups in the United States. They're also one of the newest arrival groups. They were about this is just a guess, but there were about 2,000.
Think about this. Immigrants used to come here to assimilate into America, and they would bring all kinds of cool shit, right? Like lasagna, foods. I'm a food lover, so I went right to food. But, there might be all kinds of things. But all in all, they came to America seeking a better place and to start over. But they also assimilated. They learned the language. They learned the culture. It's that simple. And some now have refused to do that. They still pledge allegiance to the country they came from. If you're if you are a nationalized person, you actually have a Social Security card, all that stuff, and you can't even speak English, I don't think that's right.
Somalis in the country in 1990 during the first Bush administration? None. You never met a Somali. You never knew anyone who had. You had no opinions on Somalis because where's Somalia? Africa somewhere? Answer, yes. But all of a sudden, in the subsequent 35 years, there are hundreds of thousands of Somalis, and and this leads to the second thing we know about Somalis, they are clustered together. They have not assimilated, as we say. Of Somalis who've lived here at least 10 years, most still can't speak fluent English because they don't need to, because they live around other Somalis and they don't have to learn it or learn critically what ties this country together beyond clan or tribe. So they're clannish and they're poor. And they are also beloved by Democratic politicians. So those are the three things we know about Somalis. And then recently we learned that in both Minnesota and the state of Maine, which is the two states in this country where they are concentrated, outside Minneapolis and within Minneapolis and in Maine and Lewiston and Portland, they have committed apparently, and by they we mean literally they as a group speaking their language, communicating only with each other, massive multi-billion-dollar Medicare fraud. So we know that, and that scandal is just broken, and the president has weighed in on it. He's against it. We shouldn't have any Somalis, he says. And Democrats, of course, have pivoted back against Trump 180 degrees. No, Somalis are what made this country great. They built this country. We wouldn't have a country without Somalis. They built Minneapolis.
Now, regardless what you think, the country was built in many different stages. But to get where we're at really right now is the industrial age. And that was by a lot of hardworking immigrants that came from countries such as Ireland, Italy, Scandinavia, a lot of European countries, France, the list goes on and on and on. Belgium. People that are fleeing from their country, why are they fleeing? Is it a real war or not? How did they get here and what did they add to that? Are they coming here seeking refuge because they chose a different ideology and religion? Some people flee here because they feel persecuted by the religion that's ruled in their country. I don't think we have control over that, and I don't believe that's a reason to be able to come here, honestly. But let's keep on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we should have a Somali on the $1 bill, or the digital version. The programmable digital currency we're about to give you should be Somali related. And of course, all the politicians are singing the Somali national anthem and waving Somali flags, and all of a sudden being Somali is like the essence.
Love you, and we stand with you. That commitment is rock solid. Minneapolis is proud to be home to the largest Somali community in the entire country.
Maaga Yegawa Yarub Farid. Doka Magalada.
I don't know if it's just me, but that really sounds like a Star Wars language to me. Something like the Hutt speak or something. I really am not too sure, but I find it a very odd dialect, and I don't believe any politician should be pledging allegiance to a foreign country or ideology for that matter. It's English. They should speak English also, especially if they are naturalized citizens.
Minneapolis. Mahat Senate. Mahat Senate. For all of your incredible work, Mahat Senate.
حتى إلا November 4. I need your vote.
A video of Omar Fateh's rally speech as a Minneapolis mayoral candidate went viral when he waved a Somali flag and addressed supporters in Somalia on October 30th. Fateh is reportedly...
Now, you don't think that that is like insane? That somebody's running for a political office in America waving a foreign country's flag? especially if they're an immigrant. Shouldn't he be like, I love America and I'm running for this office in America so I can keep the American traditions alive and what it is to be an American? If I come here and now, I eat apple pie and I watch baseball and so on and so forth, I don't make women cover their faces and their body for fear that some other man may see her and want to grab her from me like a barbarian. What is this culture to that point to where mutilating women's genitals? I'm not even going to get in depth on this, but just listen.
The first Somali American to serve in the Minnesota Senate.
I say it endlessly, but you look at the blue areas, the Americas, the places Europeans colonized, IQs of 95, 100, and better. You look at South and Central America, and they go down to average IQs in the 80s. Middle East, Northern Africa, India, average IQs in the 70s. Mentally retarded is 75. Sub-Saharan Africa, average IQs in the 60s, even the 50s. There are non-human mammals with imputed IQs of 50, like dolphins, elephants, pigs. That's the level we're talking about. And when you go to any of these regions and look at them, Americas, go to Europe, go to Russia, you see a certain kind of society. Go to Mexico, go to South and Central America, you see a certain kind of society that reflects their average IQ. Go to North Africa, along the Mediterranean, the Middle East, India, you see a certain kind of culture reflecting their IQ. Go to Sub-Saharan Africa, again.
Once again, when you export the third world in mass amounts, you turn this into the third world. People don't want to come here no more after a while because there's no more white people here. Pay attention.
You see a certain type of culture reflecting their IQ. And we know this intuitively, don't we? Because, for example, in Africa, there were periods in recent African history where white colonizers went there, established Rhodesia, established South Africa. And those white people bring their first world IQ with them, and they create a first.
Rhodesia, by the way, I had to, if I hear a word I don't know, Rhodesia is basically you've created agriculture that was unable to go there, and now you're growing to feed people like they did. They went there and modernized. Colonization is modernization. So they modernized an area that for thousands of years, mud huts, just nothing. Then after a while, somehow it flips around and they're like, you know what? Kill Whitey, take our land back. And now where are they at? Crops don't grow no more. Nothing's functioning. It is a dysfunctional area. Every place that the colonizers have went and made a foothold, and then once they left, you see what has happened.
World culture within that third world environment. So it's not the environment. When Rhodesia is created, it's a first world nation. When South Africa is created, it's a first world nation. If it's handed back to the indigenous Africans, the black Africans, it reverts to a third world status again. Rhodesia becomes Zimbabwe. South Africa becomes the hellhole it is now. So it's all driven, the people are the destiny. And the people are the destiny in varying ways because of their varying.
Yeah, their varying ideas, cultures, and so on and so forth. So think about this. If you import enough people with a culture that believes women should have to cover their whole bodies, that call to prayer should be called every morning, do you think you can go to one of these countries and tell them, hey, we're going to set up 100 Christian churches? Do you think they're going to allow that? And we're going to bring thousands of Caucasians here to worship in it. Doesn't even have to be Caucasian at that point. That's the problem. People are talking about there might be some sort of war, right? They talk about an inner civil war. They talk about these wars. Well, I want you to remember something that he just stated. These are facts. Modernization is through colonization. We have been colonizing and we've been built up to this point in history. I'm going to tell you why there's not going to be a holy war. Who's fighting on what side? China doesn't worship a Christian God, and they do not worship a Muslim God either. Okay, they have their own deities and Buddhas and gods and all that stuff. They are real stringent and strict. They are able to lock down like they've been doing for a long time and just do their own thing. They do. They poke around. They want Taiwan. They want this. They want that. But all in all, they're doing for their people. Look at their society. Look at their education rate. Things like that. Now, switch over. Oh, and military. They have a military. Now, switch over to the Muslim side of it. Muslim nations that are, even if they were our ally, and it came down to religion, they're going to take religion over that. Once religion has sunk in for so many thousands of years and you haven't learned enough, you haven't educated enough, you haven't let your people have freedoms beyond that because you've modernized to the point where you don't have to cover your faces up no more, nothing bad's going to happen. No God or Santa Claus is coming down the chimney to do shit to you. Literally, we know this. So why not let your people have some freedoms? Then you don't have these controls that you have. It is what it is. But here in America, we have too many people coming in. Not anymore, honestly. Now it's shut down. We know that. So I'm going to get off here. But if you haven't smashed that like button, the subscribe button, and the notification icon, please do. Stoner Dog, come here, baby. You want to say bye? Come here, girl. Say bye. Bye, everybody. This is not Don Poe talking. This is Stoner Dog talking. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Thank you, baby. I love her. 1.